All right, guys, welcome to the next episode of the PogOCast. This one's a special one. It's with my good friend PAF, or prestigious anime fan. Um, Today's gonna be basically just a anime discussion between us two. Yeah, so it's like a special episode. It's not gonna be as long as the normal ones, but I hope you guys enjoy. And yeah, get right into it. Alrighty. How's it going?
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is PretentiousAnimeFan. I am on youtube.com/at PretentiousAnimeFan. You can find me there. Got a lot of cool videos that I like to make there, so check me out.
They
Thank you
are they
for
are good
having
videos,
me on the show today.
of course. Anime is a huge focal point for myself. It's a thing I thoroughly enjoy getting into. So it's nice to be able to just sit and talk with somebody about it and figure out uh why anime is so great. Although I think that currently, um, I think my biggest thing right now is I I'm just curious as to why there's so much anime being produced nowadays. And every few seasons we have maybe 3 or 4 good shows that stick around, but it's a lot of it consists of a lot of trash. Uh, and Yeah, it's something I really want to talk about because I just think if they focused more on producing good shows, we could have multiple season shows instead of just 100 different single show animes that don't really go anywhere or this shit. So
Yeah, I'd be glad to give my opinion on this. So, I'll just weigh in on my opinion of basically what I think of the seasonal trend, or what you refer to as, a lot of quantity over quality, as you say. Um, I'm a guy who watches every single show, every season. Since fall 2020, I have watched, or I guess given a try to every single show that has ever come out in the regular TV airing seasons. And through this process of just watching and dropping shows within 3 minutes, maybe 15 minutes on a rare occasion, yes, I do agree the quality of shows is not like impeccable. But I think the thing you have to realize is that anime is not necessarily a very consumer friendly medium. If you want to look into like every show that's coming out, you're gonna get like maybe like 3 consumer friendly shows that
mm,
are gonna go mainstream. But the rest of the shows are what I would classify, and many people would classify as niche types of shows. Where um, there was a show this season. It's currently fall 2022, where this dude gets reincarnated as a lolly sword. So he gets reincarnated and he's just like the sword of this like cat lolly. I forget the name of the show, but
the
it's a
time
niche
I got
show.
reincarnated as a sword.
Yeah, it's sort of like that. So it's a very niche show. Like the premise of the show is not appealing to the general public because like everyone and their grandmother has harped on
Mm-hmm.
the idea of why are there so many isekai shows. And now I'm a bit of a isekai enjoyer when it comes to be
Of
good
course, so am
ones.
I.
Obviously, a lot of people like isekai shows, but then they claim that, or a lot of people will claim that it's oversaturated, which is not like the most baseless claim ever. A lot of isekai shows do drop the ball in their concept and their premise and their characters,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not to say that it's completely oversaturated to the point where we haven't seen something good in a long time. Like when you bring up auditory mediums like music, right?
Yeah.
Post rock is a big concept that uh, isn't really popular anymore, and no good post rock albums have come out in a very long time. Whereas you can say with isekai and the isekai genre, there have been good isekais to come out in recent times. My favorite one in recent times is Mushoku Tensei because it kind of twists the genre a little bit from from the typical like, oh, I just standard reincarnate as this guy in an MMORPG concept. Whereas Mushoku Tensei takes a little bit of a slow burn and says, well, I'm actually a recluse hikikomori otaku type character, and I'm being reincarnated as a child who still retains all of his memories from when he was, obviously a hikikomori, but then turns into this, you know, hero figure in the show, despite all of his shortcomings as
Mm,
an otaku, and then it turns into this like otaku commentary or hikikomori commentary on like the lifestyle that this person led is not the lifestyle that he currently leads, and then he's
yeah.
still like feeling the remnants of his past being afflicted in his new existence, which I think it's a good concept. Characters could be better. Not a whole fan of this otaku commentary type thing, but it's one of the more interesting ones to come out in recent times. But in terms of the seasonal progression, right? Where like maybe like three, you have like maybe three shows as good as Mushoku Tensei
Yeah.
a year, in my opinion. Like I don't think if I don't think it's even seasonal. Like you might have like three shows as good as Mushoku Tensei in like a year. Um, but it's not because they're cheap. It's because a lot of these studios that are running, in my opinion, just don't have the financial success from their last produced shows, so they have to try and just produce these half-baked ideas to keep themselves afloat. A good example of this is Studio Manglobe, who saw the Shinichiro Watanabe show
Yeah.
because he seems to have the critical success that is required for us to stay afloat. So they produced Samurai Champloo for him, and it went very well for him. But then, if you look at their catalog after just this, barrage of, you know, incoherent successes, failures, a lot of failures, mostly,
Right.
you're looking at a really, you know, hopeful studio that turned sour really quick because
Yeah.
they just could not keep up with the successes necessary to maintain a studio.
Yeah. Uh yeah, I just think I think for me is like heavily intuned into the studio side of it and like completely understanding you know um like the successes of certain studios like very kind of niche when it comes to talking about studios, but I just for me would more like to see studios capitalize on what they did well and carry forward the shows that they do good instead of pushing out just garbage, I guess. And it's not that I think that most of it's garbage. I mean, like, I don't obviously watch every anime of every season. I kind of get stuck on certain things, but I do like the the large amount of anime because it's just stuff to consume. I just wish that there's a lot of promise in seasons, even without the few three. Um, I think that there's a lot of promise for some of the nicher type animes that I would like to see continue on, and I think um, there's room for them to maybe for like the bigger studios to kind of like take a step back and kind of just work on the bigger things or the better products of their studio.
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from with this, and it's not like there haven't been studios that have the ability to step back and say, we need time to produce a show of superior quality to what the rest of the people are producing. But then you're just losing a valuable revenue stream, which is why Studio Bones has sort of turned into this, My Hero Academia machine because it's consistently a driving financial success for them, even if the quality of the show has gone down in multiple years of its runtime. And a lot of its fans have noticed this. I noticed it as early as season three, part two, or the second arc of season three. There have been studios in the past, like Studio Madhouse, that I'm a big fan of because of their main producer, Masao Maruyama, who produced like every single great show you can possibly think of,
Mm,
in the early 2000s to early 2010s, that you can just think of, like Death Note. He produced all the Satoshi Kon films, Perfect Blue, Paprika, Tokyo Godfathers. He produced Red Line in his later career. But the problem is that you see that he helped produce all of these amazing shows, but
Right.
then it drove Madhouse to bankruptcy. And he had to basically say, okay, I'm leaving, guys, because we're broke. And so he founded Mappa right after that. And now Mappa is the most popular studio because it's pretty much the same thing of his
Hmm.
vision. I don't think he produces for them anymore because he's kind of on
Right.
his deathbed at the moment.
Yeah.
But he came into the studio with the intention of do the same thing we did at Madhouse, except let's try not to run out of money this time. Uh, he basically chose the most auteur products and didn't care about whether they were going to make money, but that's kind of what drove him to his downfall at Madhouse. And now Madhouse is stuck producing Overlord season 10 because, if you notice, if you look at their starred catalog throughout the years, they do not do sequels. The only sequel they do is, I think, Ashita. No, it's Hajime. No, I forget. It's a boxing show. I think it might be Ashita no Joe, but I'm not sure. But they
Yeah.
only did sequels for that one boxing show, and then nothing else. I'm pretty sure. So if you just see how one studio can try to produce all these quality works and try to produce all these hype shows that you're talking about, like even One Punch Man later in its studio's downfall, that was a financial black hole for them. Like both Redline and One Punch Man are just financial black holes because of so how overly produced they are and so over the top, and they're just not bringing enough financial success to warrant them being uh you know a continuous series. I mean, you wonder why they don't capitalize on something like One Punch Man. It's because it's just simply unfeasible to produce another show like that. You will never see another show like that in your lifetime, most likely for a very long time, at least, because it took like an actual A team of just pristine people to put that together, and it's just not happening.
Yeah. I mean, I did wonder. I was amongst the people that wondered why kind of like One Punch Man started off great, and then season two came around, and season two was just not there at all. And I
Yeah,
believe
because One
season
Punch
three is
Man 2
coming
was
out.
produced by JC Staff, and JC Staff has had a pretty black hole history as well, where they're like one of the studios that I would not go to for anything other than
Yeah.
like actually I actually wouldn't go to them for anything. Their most recent great product that they made was the Konosuba movie, and that was mainly the staff from Studio Dean. So
Mm.
I'm not even sure if I, you know, want to give them full entire credit for that. But I'll give them credit for the sake of giving them credit. But JC Staff has always had a really lackluster catalog.
Crazy to me that a lot of like these studios like even I never heard of and I call myself like a pristine anime fan, but uh, the more I hear about like different types of studios, I just wonder like when is it enough for studios? Like, why do we need so many different studios? And if maybe we could, yeah, it's just why don't you combine studios to produce better content? You
Well,
know?
they do. They outsource a lot of their production. Every studio does it. They
Mm.
say it's like mainly produced by studio. Let's just say Studio Dean, for example, and
Yeah,
then they
yeah,
outsource it to like I don't know somebody else. Like it's not all done in house. It would be literally impossible to do it all in house. They have to go to other people for it.
yeah,
So I get what you're saying when you want to consolidate the studios and the staff, but it's just not feasible because you don't want to try to consolidate the wrong people together, because if there's a studio like Studio Bones, right, that wants to only produce action shonen type shows where it's like flashing lights and stuff like that,
yeah, like
there's no
Mob
way they're going
Psycho.
to work with like Troika or something like that. There's a lot of
Mm.
slow burners, sort of like slice of life type shows. You wouldn't see Bones and Kyo Annie coming together to make a product because they're just two entirely different people in general. It's
Yeah,
think of them for as people, for example. You don't want to combine the wrong people together, but it's not to say that they can't make good products. Uh, for example, there was a time when I believed that two studios could come together and create something really nice. One of my least favorite studios, A1 Pictures, and then Studio Trigger, which is one of the most famed studios. Uh, co-produced Darling and the Franxx together, and then it was a commercial success, right? And then A1 Pictures, no, it was Trigger that left near the 13th or 14th episode, I forget, and then the show just collapsed on itself after that,
Yeah.
and that was a major problem for the fans, and the fans definitely saw it. They're like, "What happened?" But there's a lot of people who basically said that it was bad from the beginning, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people liked it from the beginning. It was
Oh,
good, but
it was a fantastic show.
it was pretty good up until like that midpoint section where everything just collapsed on itself. But two
Yeah.
studios came together to produce that and co-produce that, but now Trigger is trying to like sort of erase that from their lineage, which I
Mhm.
understand because the show kind of fell apart, but they were the ones who left. That's at least what I heard. So, they're not too fond of that product being counted in their catalog at the moment.
Marketing wise and merchandise wise, I think Darling in the Franks was phenomenal. Yeah,
I mean,
I
there's no
just
doubt it was the most popular show of the year.
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's still semi popular to this day. I mean, still a lot of fans for it. I feel like whenever there is a topic of discussion of best girl, I think season there is, from what I've seen, for the most part, that's when Darling kind of gets its traction a little bit, and then after the discussion of best girl is over, I mean, it kind of just falls off again. So
But you see, they're trying to fulfill a niche in that sense because
yeah,
what exactly is like Darling in the Franxx? It's just budget Evangelion with like
true.
far less artistic merit,
Yeah,
far less interesting characters, and interesting character designs. Like all the characters look and sound like pretty much exactly the same. No one's. I mean, does anyone even remember like the main dude's name? I think I remember it. I think it's like Hero or something like that.
it is Hero.
But
Yeah.
like, does anyone actually care about the dude other than that he was like no one cares about him. Like there's no idea that I'm gonna be referencing from his character that I could not already reference from Evangelion, which is the exact same show.
Mm.
You know, the mechs are the aliens. Like hello, I didn't see that coming from a mile away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's just very interesting thing to look upon. Like, we have all these studios together, um, and then have all something, um,
They're producing
and
shows for a niche audience. Like it's not bad. Like I don't think it's like you could they suck. Yes, they suck. But it's not bad for the medium. Having diversity in a medium is always a great thing because like let's just say if we had
mm,
it if we were living in a universe where only 3 shows came out in a season but all of them were good, how are we supposed to differentiate what's good and what's bad from just those 3 good shows like a season? Like I don't know. Like if I was spending every single waking moment just watching good shows, I think I would start to think that the good shows were bad shows, you know? And
right,
I'd
right. So
start
that'll explain why you kind of like try
you
and
have to
watch
watch
everything.
bad shows to understand what good shows
Yeah.
actually mean. Like I always say this, but when you watch like 50 bad shows, then you should probably watch a 10. Like if someone says this is a 10 product, you need to watch like at least 10 bad shows to understand why it's such a good show. I would never give anybody like a 10 without first basically charging them with, the torture of watching like 10 seasons of SAO to really understand why it's so good. I
Yeah.
mean, I watch every season of SAO just because I'm just so furious every time I finish a season or watching that. I just am so infuriated watching it. I cannot believe it's real. That it's like the only real emotion I have watching a show that bad. I feel like garbage shows like SAO deserve the type of emotion you get from it because when's the last time you actually were like infuriated by something so terrible that you just like visually have disgust on your face? It's very rare in my opinion, so that's why I keep watching it because you need to have the opposite emotions as well. For every like happy emotion after watching like I don't know, like a Ghibli movie, you need to have like furious or the ferocity of watching SAO and being like, how did any human actually put this to paper and say, "Yep, I
Right.
did a good job." Like, I just don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. You talk about SEO because SEO is one of like a huge topic that like either people like it or don't like it.
Everyone and their grandmother hates SAO. Like it's not like an uncommon thing to hate SAO. It's just that no one has watched up to the or like barely anyone has watched up to the point that I'm at, which is like all caught up. I am completely caught up. It's like 15,000 seasons. Like no
Hmm.
one's watched that much because it's so terrible. And if you
Yeah.
don't think it's terrible, then you're a lost cause at this point. You haven't watched enough good shows to realize it's terrible. That's not my problem.
Like SAO, your opinion is basically invalid.
Yeah.
You are not a true anime fan.
Well, I mean, your opinion's not invalid. It's just that your standard of quality is just diminished. It's
Yeah.
basically at a lower life form point. In my humble opinion, as the pretentious anime fan.
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, I feel like, yeah, it's definitely like, it's just baffling to me. You know, I see each season and like I'm like looking through and always checking any chart or any mal or anything, just looking through next and looking at the titles and just trailers to some of these shows, and I'm just like, why is anyone making this? Why are these shows coming out? What purpose do they have? But yeah, I guess I don't really look at it in that sense. Like, um, you know, it is a lot of these shows that aren't big hitters are for a certain type of niche audience, and
And they'll pay
I
big bucks to get that merch for that show. That's the thing. Like,
yeah.
they wouldn't keep making them if it wasn't at least a slight financial success. Most of these shows are plummeting to their death. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, none of these shows are like going mainstream, obviously, but the
Hmm.
people that are buying the merch and buying the Blu-rays or whatever, they're keeping the studio afloat, and that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of the studios are hoping for. They're hoping that they make enough revenue to stay afloat.
Yeah, a lot of what I've noticed is that a lot of these like niche shows like are basically just cash grab merch wise. I do see
I
a
mean,
lot
that's
of
kind of the idea, isn't it?
yeah,
You have,
yeah, yeah,
you have to make money, and if
yeah.
you have to just make the most terrible product ever that might have the chance of making money, that's kind of the idea, you know.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people have the. Do you think all these creators want to make these shows? No, they don't want to make them. They'd have to make them. Like, if you wanted to make whatever you wanted, no one's gonna be the next Hayao Miyazaki anytime soon. Like, the closest guy we have to Hayao Miyazaki at this point who can make pretty much anything he wants is Makoto Shinkai, who did Your Name, Garden of Words, I think, 5 centimeters per second, and then Weathering with
Hmm.
You. That guy makes the same movie every year, but he gets big bucks because it's a Makoto Shinkai movie. He has like a bunch of Ghibli animators on his team, so it's like literally like impossible to not make money on his products. But he's a hack job anyway. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, the dude has not made like even like two good products in his life, so it doesn't matter.
Or
But he has
Rocky,
the credit.
Rocky.
He has the mainstream acclaim, so it doesn't matter. He like
Yeah,
gets to win despite his shortcomings as a director.
yeah. His movies are they are the I do notice that it is basically the same movie.
It's the same art style every single time, and it's the
Yeah,
same movie every single time. Like,
yeah.
it's not interesting. He has no artistic merit. Like, this guy hasn't made something good since 5 centimeters per second, and maybe no, I'm not even counting Your Name. Your Name sucked too. Uh, 5 centimeters per second, maybe Garden of Words if I was feeling inclined to share a good notion on it on a good day, but
Right.
5 centimeters per second is like his only like quantifiable good product that he's ever made, and that one is like early into his career, so no one's watching it.
Yeah, fair.
I'm pretty
Or
sure
some.
even his like earlier films, like I think She and Her Cat was entirely produced by him. I forget. I forget if he did that one or if that was someone else, but I'm pretty sure he did one product, a mecha show entirely or a mecha movie short film like that was entirely produced by him. I forget what it was called, but he has the chops to do something. He just is not doing it. I don't know if it's a board of directors saying that he can't, or if he's just kind of like hooked on this concept of being stuck in this mundane atmosphere, but it's whatever. Like, this guy has no idea what he's doing.
And that's pretentious anime fan for you. Like a lot of people would disagree with a lot of.
Yes, I know a lot of people would disagree because they like terrible products.
I think a lot of people just don't get into anime like as prestigious as some. Um, a lot of people are watching 10 out of 10 shows and don't really like broaden their taste bud, I guess, and so they always assume that everything. Um, they're never like diving into the trash.
I don't see a lot of people like diving into the tens pile because like the tens pile, I feel like people just don't have usually. Like, I don't think a lot of people get into anime coming in like I'm gonna watch only tens. Like, you can't even get into any medium like that. Like, it's like saying that I'm gonna go to museums and only look at Van Gogh because he's the only tens that I can perceivably see, when there's like an entire other part of the medium that you just have not seen. Like, he's like one age of, or one era of the art sphere. Like, you're just not seeing anything past
Well,
him.
right. I mean, you might, but I mean, I know of people that only get in that have gotten into anime only watching 10 shows.
Well, that's boring.
Yeah, I mean, but some people like. I think I think definitely during the pandemic, a lot of people, anime definitely swept over the Western audience a lot more.
Oh, I do not doubt it. I do not
Um,
doubt it.
and a lot of people coming in only want to watch the good stuff. They don't want to get into the weeb, I guess, aspect. And like sift through the not so popular shows. Everyone just kind of wants to watch it just to say that, like, hey, I watch anime too. Like, I'm cool. I watch Death Note. I cool now. So,
Death Note isn't
uh,
a bad show. I think that a lot of people overrate it. But I think everyone consensus of, basically the general consensus is that it just fell off after L dies, which I also agree with.
true.
But I totally get it when people say, or when, if you have friends that only watch the good products and then don't really dive into the trash, because you'd have to be an insane maniac to dive into the trash heap like I am. I'm not saying that everyone should. I'm just saying that, people that do intentionally dive into the trash heap probably have a better sense of what's good, in terms of, the general
No,
ideas
it's
going on in
definitely a good thing
anime
we
discourse.
yeah, it's definitely a good
I
thing
mean,
that
I
we
don't care how
interact.
bad your opinion is. If you've watched like 50 bad shows in a season and then say there's one good show in a season, I'll believe that guy instead of the dude who just watched that one good show and said, "Yeah, I think this is pretty good." Like, the dude had to watch 50 other shows to see that one show was actually good. So
Hmm.
I'm definitely more invested in that idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing. We're now friends. It's definitely nice to have someone that like genuinely takes anime for what it is as a whole, rather than kind of just getting into it just
Well,
for the
I wouldn't
sake of
say
it.
I take a look at it as at a whole. I like, this is like meta commentary. Like, this is very like basic in my eyes, at least. This is like some basic ideas that we're going over. Uh, there are more niche ideas that I'm more specific with, and more versed in. For example, I really like the slice of life genre and what basically has convert or the conversation surrounding like how good slice of life can be created, because I think actually slice of life and cute girl shows are the hardest show to make and appeal to an audience to,
Right.
because like they're fighting from the bottom of the pit essentially, because if you take a shonen show, right, you're
Mm.
already reaching the mainstream audience. Like, you have the most popular IPs and the most popular genre, and you're just going at it from that, and you already have the background audience. But if you're coming into it original show with just the concept of cute girls, you are fighting from literally the depths of society to basically say this is a good product, because like it's not appealing to a lot of people. In Japan, it is. It's very appealing. For example, in the West, there was a couple years back, maybe like 5 years back, there was a show called Kimono Friends. CGI like cute girl show with like anthropomorphic animals, and they were like
Yeah.
CGI. So the West was like, this show sucks. I hate it. This is like really just a waste of time. But if you look in Japan, that show was absolutely revered. It's like one of the most popular shows in Japan at the time because it was like so cool to them. You just can't explain it. And basically, the West was like, why do you keep producing shows like this? But then Japan's like, keep producing shows like this. And who do you think Japan's gonna go to for their main audience? Japan.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what I'm saying. You have to understand that like they're not producing shows for us. They're producing shows for them over there. Like it's not for them. Or it's not for us, it's for them.
I'm
You
cool with
know?
it though, because I also
I'm cool
am
with it too. Kimono Friends is
a
cool.
yeah. I love slice of life. I think when I started getting into them, I definitely enjoy them, and I love definitely taking my time to seek them out because they're just very good shows all around.
Some of
So
them are. I think the crowning achievement for slice of life shows is definitely K-On! And then, there's a couple other really influential shows that are not like specifically slice of life, but Haruhi, very influential. And then the,
mhm.
sort of like parody of Haruhi slash like meta commentary show after that in its lineage is definitely Lucky Star. But guess who produced all three of those shows? Kyoto Animation. Quite possibly the only real kingpin of the genre that will ever,
Yeah,
have real notoriety for the rest of time. It's a shame that they can't really produce shows at the rate they were, because 2019 arson attack really
right.
dampened their production schedule, and also a lot of their personnel. So we'll probably never see another studio like them in our lifetime, because they're just so revolutionary and
Unfortunate. Unfortunate.
absolutely changed everything for the genre. But uh, is slice of life getting worse? I don't necessarily think so. I think a lot of slice of life shows come out and like they're trying new concepts. It's just
Right.
not execution is not like there for most of these shows. Like the execution and care put into characters, like introducing them, is the focal point of the show. Like
Yeah.
for me, if you introduce all four characters at once, you're doing it wrong. Like you're just doing it wrong. You have to slow creep it in. Like I like shows that like take multiple episodes to introduce your entire cast because take a look at one of my favorite like or favorite three episodes in anime in recent times. Konosuba had a really good first three episodes because it doesn't introduce you to everyone at once. It's over three episodes, it slowly introduces you to our entire cast, and then after that point of introduction, then you start seeing that they're an entire comedy ensemble.
Right.
So you get to realize the comedic merit of each character through their episode, and that's what you should take as your approach. K-On! uh, I think only takes 2 episodes to introduce all of its characters, but I think it's still a good pace. Like you should at least take 2 episodes or three to basically make sure that everything is like squared away with each character's individual merit before you actually start diving into like,
Yeah, because it gives you
oh,
that
what's the
sense of
gimmick?
connection
Because the
to
thing
this.
is, these shows revolve around the gimmick, right?
Mm,
K-On! It's the music and the tea time parties, and for Konosuba, it's the comedic ensemble of doing MMORPG stuff in an isekai world.
right.
Uh, but you can't dive into the gimmick before introducing who you're actually spending time with, the people doing the gimmick.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then you just feel like you're kind of missing something. I guess when they introduce it all the characters at once, um, and like whatever gimmick that is supposed to be present, you kind of feel like you're missing out. And like,
Yes, I feel that like with every show that comes out, like the gimmick comes before the characters is just the wrong
right,
type of
right.
message to send. One type of character that I think really dampens the projected success of a lot of these shows is the shy type character. Now, there have been shy type characters that have succeeded in the past. One of my favorites is the one from Haruhi. I forgot her name, but she's like this like science fiction type
Yeah.
character,
Mm-hmm.
the occult type, and she's like she doesn't say anything, but she's just there. Like that's the type of character you should probably like not do most of the time because like they serve as little purpose other than to just sit there and like just do nothing and then add like sometimes they make them like a little bit like inept at social interaction or like
Mm-hmm.
recluse. So I feel like those types of characters don't really enhance the product because they don't feel like a part of the group most of the time. So that's one thing that I think a lot of these shows have nowadays. They just try to actually avoid this concept. I haven't seen like a really shy character in a while because they're just out of fashion.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
glad we ironed that out from a lot of these shows because they're kind of boring.
They are kind of boring. They're kind of just there, just for
They
placeholder.
had this type of character in Gakugarashi as well, which is like this show that surrounds these girls in a zombie apocalypse, and it's like presented as a cute slice of life, but there's also like horror elements, which is pretty interesting because I don't think there's a lot of shows that tackle both the the slice of life slash horror elements in one show. But you know, there are certain times when shy characters can be done well enough to actually have them be a part of a mainstay of a show, which I appreciate when it's done correctly.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is when it's done correctly. Because a lot of shows kind of just act on it and think that they got it, but um, I guess I kind of just pushed it out, and like only a few really hit the mark on it, and they do what they have to correctly to make the show what the show is, or to um, capitalize on the genre it's presented in. Other than that, it was fantastic talking to you about some juicy anime and state of anime and why um, a lot of studios are just producing um, a lot of anime that's kind of just one season hitters and that really only kind of catered to a niche audience, which is fine. I really enjoy a lot of these, and I'm sure a lot of people do obviously. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep doing it. Um, but it was fantastic talking to you about all of this. It was eye opening for a lot of the studios that I've never even heard of, or I've watched the show and never really thought twice of, who was behind it. So I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day, your anime fan. Yeah, is there anything else you want to say before we head out?
Yeah, I'd like to thank you for putting me on your platform here to, insert my 2 cents on this very common but always interesting to meta commentate on topic. There is a lot to really understand about the topic or about the medium in general that a lot of people probably want to get a grasp on, but they just don't have the resources to. So I would definitely suggest checking out a couple YouTube channels that really dive deep into a lot of the cool ideas in the medium and a lot of the cool people in the medium. I would like to recommend Steve M. I'd like to recommend Under the Scope. And then if you're an Ava fan and you want to dig deeper into a lot of Ava content, I would suggest checking out a few videos from Go Jesus. I really like that guy. And if you want to keep up to date on a lot of great anime content coming out on YouTube, and basically see what YouTube videos concerning anime came out during the week and which are the best, I would check out this guy named Caribou Kun or Shabes, who does this show called Anime Digest. He does it like weekly, I'm sure, and it's quite a good show because he takes it upon himself to watch anime videos on YouTube, which is a dire process in my opinion because it's really saturated
Right.
and like lot of people actually have stuff that's interesting to say. So he does the work for you to show you what the good videos are. So I definitely would suggest checking him out.
Yeah, of course we're gonna have all. I will put all the links for all the channels were mentioned here in the description below. The Pretentious Anime Fan will be there as well. Top. Just yeah. So that was the special episode of Strictly Anime with the Pretentious Anime Fan. So appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Yeah, later.
Okay. You can call me like PAF or your mama's boyfriend or something. I don't know.
Your mama's boyfriend. That word for word. Your mama's boyfriend. So what do you think on the current economic state of
That's a terrible topic.
I agree. I do think it's a shit topic.
All right, whatever. You can do your little introduction or whatever, and I'll jump in when you give me the cue.
Okay.
You know, introduce a topic or whatever. I don't know. It's your show.
I mean, we kind of get into it. I basically just deafen do the little intro, and then we just get right into it. So let me do that real quick, and then